she's going to be like a program coordinator for people coming out of recovery houses. And it's her
Okay.
responsibility to create these programs, like a 5-year program to help these people that need ongoing support above and beyond, say, AA and whatever other things are out there. And so she came over and got a couple of my books and then wants to use them to develop her program and spoke to her boss about it this week, gave him copies of my books. He was really excited about the idea. And so he's now taken it to his boss. So it could be that part of my program, part of what I'm doing becomes part of their ongoing program. That, and I had a really amazing job interview yesterday. So I think I had a pretty good week.
I think that deserves a whoop whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop,
Yep,
whoop.
feeling pretty damn good.
Yeah,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah,
I'm going to be back in just a sec. You guys carry on.
sure. Okay. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Jessica. How are you?
I am amazing.
Good. I forgot my one device for connecting my ear or headset somewhere in a different earbud, so I don't know how it's coming through, but
You
it's
sound
working.
great. Yeah, you sound fine.
Good.
So, yeah, any updates? Yeah. So you say your acknowledging list is getting packed.
Yeah. Oh, can I add something? I forgot.
Sure.
I've lost 3 inches off my gut as well from
Oh,
going to the gym
from going to the
four
gym.
times
Yeah,
a
good
week.
for you. Yeah, well,
Congratulations.
I've been watching your little updates
Yep.
from the gym. You've been going there
Yep.
regularly now for 2 or 3 months,
Yep.
right?
Since the middle of December, so we'll call it a month. But this week I went 4 times. Last week not so much because of the snow. So, but I'm really enjoying it. And so now I've got the cravings. Like when I can't go, I feel off, which is where I needed to get to. And so now I feel good.
Yeah. Well, you have to
Mhm.
make sure you keep on.
Okay.
I was watching a video yesterday by our buddy Ben Hardy, right? And this was a TEDx talk that he gave. I think it was 2015 or something. Because you mentioned he was. I think he said he was still in his PhD program, right? And I think he got his PhD in 2018 or 2019. So I think this was from 2015. But anyway, he was talking about commitment and making decisions, right? And one of the things he said that was interesting, I thought, was that if you, I can't remember the exact phrase he used, but it was something like, if you're 98% committed, it's not enough. When you're 100%, then that changes your identity, right? And so when you say, okay, I'm never going to do this again, or I'm always going to do this, or you have this identity of a person who does this, and that becomes a part of your identity, um, then that's a completely different ball game. You know, your past changes, your future changes, your trajectory changes. But if you're only 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% committed, even 98%, he says, what happens is your brain sort of always gives you that out. You can always sort of bail, right, for some reason. And but once you make once you're 100% committed and you say this is me, this is who I am, right? I'm one of these people who, right? Or I'm one of those people who, whatever. Um, then he says your mind stops thinking about it. You know, your brain just doesn't spend any time thinking about it because, and this is something I've experienced too, right? It's like, I use that analogy, that story of, you're trying to remember the name of a movie or something, right? And you're talking to your friend and you go, gee, I just saw this movie, this great movie with this actor. I forget his name. I can't think of the name of the movie. I'll think of it later, maybe. And And then, like, you're driving home from your coffee with your friend, and boom, the name pops into your mind right when you're driving because you're not thinking about it, right? So, to me, what that shows is that your subconscious mind is still working in the background. It's like you give it a little direction, right? Like, find the name of this movie, find the name of this actor. And so consciously you're trying to do it and you can't do it. But then when you sort of shift your mind and you're busy driving or something else, then boom, pops into your mind, right? So I think it's kind of the same deal. Like if you're 98% committed, then there's 2% of your mind that's going to be still working to try and find a way to get out of it. Because it's like you're giving it that direction, you know. I want 2% of my mind to keep thinking about ways I can get my result without being committed, you know. And so that part of your mind is going to continue to work on it, and consequently, you're always thinking about it, you know. You're always having a desire, or you have something come up and you go, ooh, you know, I would love to that, you know, I would love to do that. And I was watching another video about the number of, it was a bunch of Hollywood stars, mostly Hollywood stars, I think. I think they were all actors, you know, people that we know, people that we've seen, you know, on all kinds of movies, and talking about their addiction to pills or booze or both, you know, drugs, whatever. And it's amazing how many of them fight that. And you know, I have a theory about it personally. I have no idea if it's true or not, but you know, my idea is that when you make a huge shift, you know, your dream comes true, let's say, right? I mean, here I want to be an actor, you know, so you go to film school and you go to acting school and stuff, and then you get a few parts, and then suddenly, boom, you have a big hit, you know. And now you're in this different world where people know you and they see you and they're paying you a ton of money and you're becoming famous, and you know everybody looks at you as this super special person, but in your own mind you're not. You're still the same person, you know, like, ooh, I'm getting millions of dollars for this work I'm doing, but you know, maybe I don't deserve it, maybe I don't feel like it's right, there's something wrong with it, it's going to end, you know, something like that, right? So I think that that sort of dissonance that that they talk about, you know, that causes such an uncomfortable feeling in people. Maybe people are going to realize I'm not really that good, you know. I'm going to do another movie and I'm going to get fired, you know, whatever. You know, they have these thoughts, right? So that's so uncomfortable and so painful, emotionally painful, that they have to find some way to numb it. And, you know, what's the most common way to numb it? Have a drink, you know, take a pill. You know, one of my favorite actors is Michael Caine, right? And he came from poverty, you know, living in the Elephant, as they call it, right? The Elephant and Castle, which is a really poor area of London. And as a Cockney, you know, the general consensus is that they're lowlifes, you know. And so when he first started to trying to get into acting and into the movies, everybody said, you're never going to do it. You know, there's no parts for you. There's no parts for someone like you, right? And so this is when he was 20. And so he finally broke through with a couple movies when he was 32. He did Alfie, and he did The Ipcress File, and he did Zulu, you know, within a couple years. And they all more or less broke at the same time, right? And so he suddenly was this huge star, right? Well, he was drinking 2 quarts of vodka a day and smoking like 60 to 80 cigarettes a day. And it was his wife, essentially, I think, when he got married. And I think he met her when he was 38 or something. So, but he'd been drinking for years, right? And so when he got married to his wife, and she said, you know, you're drinking too much, then he cut back, and now he doesn't. Well, now he's 90, but I mean, you know, shortly after that, he he quit smoking and then he stopped drinking and cut way back, right? So that idea that there's a dissonance, between the way people see you and the way you see yourself, or what you're trying to achieve and what you think you deserve to achieve, or maybe you don't deserve, that's my belief about it, is that it causes so much turmoil that you have to figure out some way to deaden it, until you eventually get to the point, hopefully, where you'll accept, oh, okay, this is okay, this is, part of who I am, and it, it's fine, right? So that, that idea of kind of deadening, trying to stop your thinking until you commit, when you get 100%, okay, this is me, I'm this person, I'm just an ordinary person, I happen to have this great job, I'm making all this money, traveling around the world, but I'm still me, Then when you sort of come to terms with that, then you can quit drinking, you can quit drugs, you can quit everything else because you don't need it anymore, right? Any thoughts on
I
that?
hope you're recording because that was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I certainly hope so. I checked a couple times. Yeah, so the identity, that's a big one, right? So that's what he was talking about, I think, Benjamin Hardy, the idea of 98%, And
Is
I know, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Is that the imposter? Do they call it the imposter syndrome? Or
I'm sure
is that what
that's
that
it.
is?
Yeah, I'm sure that's it. The imposter
I mean,
syndrome.
I've heard that name, but I don't know that
Yeah.
I understand it fully.
Like
But
you feel like an
it
imposter,
sounds-
you feel like, it's all going to end because people are going to discover that you're a fraud. That's kind of what it, that's sort of what it is, I think. And I'm
I
sure,
have a couple theories on that too. I think that I think a lot of people that are famous or rich that become particularly famous or rich early, don't have a lot of life skills. They may be really good at one thing or one or two things, and I think they're also targets. I think that people have incentives to get them hooked on drugs, to make them need to work for drugs or work for money or to control them. I think agents have done that over the years. Managers and stuff like that for stars. When
Well, it
you hear
could
that Muhammad Ali, wasted all of his money. I mean, for example, and having lavish parties, and I think MC Hammer was like that. A lot of people where they get them addicted on the big party, the big bash. They're chemically dependent on being up if they're on stage. So you got to be up every night if you're performing.
oh
And
yeah, that's
so,
true. Yeah, I think
rather
that's
than do it
true.
the right way, they kind of do it the wrong way.
I mean, a lot of rock
Um,
stars and musicians, same thing. I mean, number one, they all work at night, right?
Yeah.
And people are drinking around them, and the energy is really high because people are drunk and drinking and dancing and whatever they're doing. And all of them have experienced that. I don't know particularly about Mick Jagger if he was ever addicted, but he certainly tried all kinds of drugs. And Keith Richard, he was addicted to heroin, I think, for many years, 10 or 15 years. I think he quit like in 1985, so he's been free now, free of drugs for like 50 years pretty well. But people still see him as this, drug addict because that's how they remember him, or that's what they think of him. But actually, he's a pretty clean-living guy. But I mean, for years, he got into it, and you can understand why. Like you said, Greg, you got to show. You're tired. You got to show. You got to go out and on stage and perform tonight. What are you going to do? Snort a little something, So it's understandable that they would experiment with it and get into it. Who's that guy from Friends who just died? One of the guys from Friends. What's his name?
Oh yeah, Matthew Perry.
Yeah, Matthew Perry.
Perry.
Yeah, 53, right? I think he had a heart attack and he died. But
Yeah.
but
They're
yeah,
saying now it was ketamine.
what's that?
They're saying it was ketamine in his system.
Yeah, whatever that is, I'm not even sure what that is. But there's so many drugs around, right?
I
It's
read his
funny.
book. It was really good.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I'm sure. So a lot of these people that become rich and famous, I think, they have to deal with this. It's one of the things that they have to deal with, and of course, a lot of them don't. Jimi Hendrix and like a lot of musicians, Jim Morrison, So, yeah, so the identity, that's a big deal. And of course, we talked about that last week. If you had a chance to watch that video from last week and the week before, we were talking about identity. Using that past successes worksheet, right? I am, or I can. I'm a person who, right? Um,
Yeah,
so
one question I had for you on the acknowledgments. That sheet is confusing to me a little bit in terms of as I use it. When it says acknowledgments, but I don't know if that's a success list or if that's a gratitude list. The name confuses me a bit when I get in there sometimes.
yeah, well, it's both. The way that I talk about it, the way that I explain it, is that the acknowledging list is for things that are recent, specifically from the time you started this program. So, for example, for you, you might have your acknowledging list, things that you've noticed that you've achieved or realized or learned or changes you've made in the last 2 years, since you teamed up with me, right? So that's the
Right.
acknowledging list. Whereas the way I see the past successes list, and they overlap, of course, right? But the way that I see the past successes list is more like things from the distant past. And so that and that's to build your self-esteem, as we mentioned last week, talking to Phil mentioned that. We talked about the football game. You remember when he got a touchdown, and I think he said he got 5 or 6 touchdowns during that game. And he used the word boy, right? Using it to buoy his self-image. Well, I'm from Nova Scotia, so I say buoy. Buoy his self-image. B-U-Y. How do you spell buoy? Means
Uh
to
huh.
means to prop up or to keep up, right? Like a life preserver kind of. You throw it in the water, right? A life buoy. It keeps you floating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he mentioned that, that he's used that memory of the that football game to give him confidence over the years, right? So the acknowledging list is more, the way I look at it, it's to remind yourself that you're really making progress with this program. Whereas the past successes list, that could be things you've done successfully that happened a long time before you ever heard about this program, right? So that's the only difference that I can see. But then, I mean, it's up to you, how you want to use them. But I see the acknowledging list as, because you made a decision when you joined this program. You committed to it in a sense, right? And now you're committed to it. You show up every week, right? So part of your identity now is, I'm a person who's learning, and exercising the power of my thoughts, my thinking, my mind, right? So that acknowledging list is for acknowledging your wins that you've had since you made that decision.
Interesting. Yep.
But but as I talked about a few weeks ago, when I kind of recreated that overview of the process sheet, it's the worksheet that I call an overview of the system or something like that. That there's a difference between dreams and goals, right? So
Right.
what I do with, for example, my master dream list, basically everything goes down there, you know. So anything I want, anything I think I want, anything that I think I might like to work on goes on the master dream list, and and then I might sort it out later on mentally. It's a physical or it's a spiritual dream or it's a financial dream or something like that. And so things will stay on the master dream list until I decide to achieve it. I decide to turn it into a goal, right?
Okay.
So the dreams, they don't stay dreams. I mean, some of them may be dreams forever, if I never work on them, But some other ones will just kind of sit there until I decide, okay, now I want to achieve this one. I want to turn this goal, or this dream, into a goal, right? And then when you have a goal, then all of the other worksheets kick in. What's it worth to me? That's a big one, because I want to reinforce that this goal I'm going after, this decision I made to achieve something or do something or acquire something or whatever, that is important enough for me to fight for it. And so what it's worth to me, all the reasons why I want it and what I'm expecting to get out of it when I achieve it, those motivate me. They indicate to me how important it is that I go through this, or that I go through the, fighting through the obstacles and the setbacks. When I get knocked down, this is what brings me back up onto my feet, is the what's it worth to me, right? So the what it's worth to me, I fill that out in 6 different areas, because I want to say what it's worth to my, pardon me, I fill that out in all 6 areas, because I want to acknowledge myself that it's going to mean something to my kids. It's going to mean something to my wife. It's going to mean something to my siblings, perhaps. If it's something that's going to increase my ability to help people, then who am I going to help? Maybe it's going to help contribute to my church or to my social connections, right? So, and then is it going to benefit me financially? Is it going to help me that way? And of course, if it benefits you financially, then it's going to benefit all those other areas too. Health, physical, it's going to allow you to take courses. It's going to allow you to buy things that you want, get a better car or take a trip, all that kind of stuff, right? And then spiritually, that's an important one too. It's one that a lot of people don't really think about too much, maybe, but it's like, what does it mean spiritually? In terms of my alignment with my true self, right? Is this in alignment with my highest values? That's important. Because again, if we do things that are out of alignment with our highest value, then there's going to be a dissonance there, right? There's going to be a conflict. So my energy is going to be, it's like having a leak in your boat. It's not going to keep the water out, so you got to keep patching that. You got to keep bailing, but once you patch the hole, then you've moved from 90 or 80 or 95 or 98% to 100%. Then you don't think about it anymore because now you're committed, right? So that worksheet is very important for a goal, and a goal is a decision, basically, right? And so then the other worksheets too, they kick in, like plan of action, obstacles. What am I facing? What obstacles do I have to overcome? And the obstacle can be anything. It could be a lack of something, lack of finances, lack of time, lack of support from people. So you might want to find a partner to work with you on it, depending whatever the thing is, right? Or it may be that you don't have enough confidence, so then you need to boost your confidence. There's the past successes worksheet. You bring that in, right? If you find that your self-image is lacking, then you may need to work on your identity. I'm one of these people that can do this. I'm committed to this, right? So most of those worksheets, they kick in at various points in the process of achieving the goal, right? The process is basically you make a decision. Where am I now? What's my plan? What's the first step or the next step? And then, is it working? Yes, keep going. Is it not working? No? Okay, well, now what? What can I change? What can I modify? Can I modify my self-image? Can I modify my plan? Can I modify my partnerships, find another person, hire another person, or whatever the situation is, right? Change the way I see myself. And then when you figure out what you fixed, what's wrong, okay, next step. Now what? So all those worksheets, they come in either to motivate you to continue, or to find a way to shift your approach so that you can continue. And then, of course, the acknowledging list. Keep track of your wins, because you're on a different path now. So the acknowledging list is to make sure that you appreciate the fact that you're on this path and you're getting results.
So that's part of your awareness, right? Your consciousness. Is that what you're kind of doing with the acknowledgement list? You're acknowledging it, and you're bringing it to your attention that it's different than ignoring it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So your awareness then is a part of what you're conscious of. So the way I see the awareness, it's like I use that example of the porthole on a ship. Like if I block my eyes here, I'm aware of the screen on the computer now, but I can't see what's going on in the other room, just over to the left, right?
Right.
But if I move that hand, okay, now I can see it. Now it's in my periphery, right? So it's there, but I'm not focused on it. So your focus, the focus of your consciousness, is your awareness. That's what you're aware of. And so, for example, if you're dealing with an obstacle, it might be that you weren't aware of that obstacle before, and all of a sudden, boom, it's there. I didn't realize that I needed an additional partner for this, or I didn't realize I needed help to do, or maybe I needed to take another course or learn something new, read another book.
Well, that worksheet that you have that is, where do I stand now?
Right.
Is part of that awareness as well. So if you're kind of going back and forth between those things, your acknowledgement, where do I stand now? I see those kind of related now the way you're explaining that. Because I was confused about the success list versus your acknowledgement list. I'm like, what am I using? It seems like I'm repeating myself. Wouldn't I be, wouldn't the same item be on each of them? And I wasn't sure what the difference is. So I'm glad you explained that a little bit, because it was throwing me a bit. I mean, one of the things is I'm using these from a practical standpoint. The biggest issue for me is to get to what is my plan of action. And it's kind of summary in those sheets. I mean, it's a small little thing. It's what's my plan of action? There's a couple lines or 10 lines or whatever. And so it may be a multifaceted, for things like work. I mean, work is not just a simple thing. Maybe if you're publishing the book, it's not a simple thing, or starting classes, or, whatever
Right.
we're each doing. So, it's almost inadequate. I mean, I can put a link to some other location in the sheet, or, another page in the book, or many pages of the book, if you're using the binder, where you're writing out all the things you're going to do. I mean, you're going to be up for a review. You're going to change your strategy this month. You're going to look at the end of the month, see how you did. You're going to change the numbers or statistics on what you worked on, or are you going to try to work on manifesting, or, so there's a lot to it, that some of those other sheets are kind of, preparatory or helpful to manage some of the other things in your magic, the magic acronym.
Right.
Which is, you go do those things. But one of the things that I have is a strategic plan when I'm working on this month's work. For example, if I'm not that motivated, it affects the result.
Yeah. So what it's worth, what is it worth to
tasks. You? Yeah. So to go back to what it's worth for you and look at past successes seems to be the view that you need to do to amp that up, right? To change that mood, to.
Well, probably what it's worth to you would be something to focus on, because that's the thing that needs reinforcing at the moment, right? So, so what we're talking about here, and this is it's a good point that you bring up. What we're talking about here is working with our thoughts. Well, a thought, if you think of it as an image, right? For example, if I say, you live in the United States, right? So what's the United States? Well, you might have a map in your mind of the United States, and you go, oh, well, yeah, I live in America. I live in here, right? But how much
Right.
detail is there? How much detail is there in that map? None.
Yeah, it's just a
It's just
construct that we put together.
it's just a concept. It's just a construct, right? So you have a place you go to work, right?
Yep.
So you go out in the morning, you get in your car, you start the car doesn't start. Oh, now what? Where do I stand now? Well, where I stand right now is I need this car to go to work. I have a plan to go to work. I'm motivated to go to work. I know exactly what I'm doing, but my car won't start. So now what? So that's the where do I stand now, right? It's like you have all the
Right.
other stuff. You're motivated. You have a plan. You have the work you're going to do. You have appointments set up. Your whole day is planned and all that kind of stuff. Suddenly now it's like, oh, car won't start. That's where I stand right now. What do I need to do? I need to get my car started, right? So you might
Right.
pop the hood. You might take a look at it and see what you can do. You might realize, oh, there's, the battery terminal has come off. It's a little loose or something. So you need a wrench to tighten that. So that's where you stand right
Right.
now. You need a wrench and you haven't got it. Where's your wrench? It's in the garage, right? So you walk to the garage, you look in the toolbox, and you find the wrench, let's say, and you go back and you tighten the thing. And if your car starts, boom, great, you're back on track. But the car doesn't start. Oh, it wasn't the terminal. Now what is it, right? Well, you may have to say, okay, I can't get my car going by myself. I got to call a taxi now. That's where I am. I got to get to work and I need a taxi. So you might call a taxi or an Uber or something, right? So this where do I stand now idea is like we just shifted in this little story that I just mentioned here that I just told you. We shifted from thinking about the United States to thinking about you sitting in your car in your driveway in an instant, right? And
Right.
then to looking through the toolbox for a wrench. So your focus changes like that, second to second, 50,000 times a day, apparently, right? Which is about, more or less once a second. So where do you stand now is like, okay, where am I right now, right this second? Where do I stand right this moment according to my goal? I have a goal over here. This is where I'm going. This is my plan. This is my direction. It's like driving down a street or something, but I can't drive because my car's not working, right? So that where do I stand now kind of changes according to your focus. Like if you look at for example, your financial life, right? Where do I stand now? Well, you might be looking at, your assets, what you own, your cash flow, what you want for your life planning, what you want for your retirement. If you're going to take a vacation, you're going to take a family vacation in the summer, that's going to cost X number of dollars. Do you have the money for that? Do you have it set aside? Right? So that's where
Right.
you stand now financially, according to your life plan and your retirement and the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of your life, right? So so your focus can change in an instant, like a millisecond. Your attention needs to shift, right? Now for somebody who
Right.
doesn't have that kind of a plan, somebody who doesn't have a job, well, their focus is totally different. Where do I stand right now? Well, I need to create some income. What do I do, right? How do I get a job? Do I need to update my resume, do my CV? Who can I send it to? You know what I mean? So this where do I
Right.
stand now, it's kind of like it's a way of focusing your mind depending on the situation you're in. Right? And it can change, it can change because when we think of our life, like if I said to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your life going? Well, what I'm asking you to do is to look at your whole life up to now in one shot, one concept, and give me a number. Well, you can do that. You can say, oh, it's a 8.5, or it's a 9, right? It's a 9.2. You know what I mean? So you can do that, but not a lot of detail. It's the same as the map of the U.S., right? You're looking at your whole life in one shot. Well, that's different than how's your day going? You know, what kind of a day have you got going, or you know, or what kind of a week, what kind of a month, what kind of a year, right? So these worksheets are really, you know, ways of focusing your thoughts, your thinking in a specific way using this concept we call life planning or goal setting, right? And you can use it for finding a wrench in your garage, or you can use it for planning your next 10 years of work and your retirement, right? So the idea, where do I stand now, that applies to any area of your life that you want to look at. It just depends what you're looking at now, right? So when we begin, at least for me, I'll talk about myself. When I started this process, I got this workbook and this course from Paul Meyer, and I just started out filling out the worksheets, you know, and for the first 2 or 3 months or more, you know, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just playing around with this workbook, you know. And then it was only as time went on, probably because of neuroplasticity, then I started to realize, oh, okay, what I need to do right now is I need to have some kind of a plan. So I take out the plan of action worksheet and say, okay, where do I stand right now? What am I doing? What's my plan? What's my goal? What are my obstacles? How do I get over those obstacles? You know, what can I do to get over this? And then move on from there, right? So the way that I understand the entire process is to think of like a trip, taking a trip across the country, right? You can, at least for me, I can visualize it as like a map of my life, and then a route. I want to go from here to there. Like Jessica now is going to the gym, so that's a part of her plan to get healthier and tighten up her body, maybe lose a few pounds, increase her energy, you know. So okay, where do I stand right now? Well, that's what's my energy like? What's my weight? What's my body image? Am I happy with it on a scale of 10? How pleased am I with my physical health, my body, my exercise, my
I'm going to take a quick call. 1 second.
Sure.
While we're doing this, I'm going to jump in for just.
Sure. And so then you come up with a plan, right, Jess? Go to the gym. Get you know, should I get a membership? Should I go week to week? You know, and then maybe you might have realized at some point, you know, what would be great for me would be a workout buddy. If I had a friend I could go to the gym with, we could motivate each other, right? And this is one of the things that Arnold Schwarzenegger says. I know you have his latest book. Have a buddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, Benjamin Hardy, in that video that I mentioned that I watched yesterday, I can send you a link to it.
Yes, please.
He said the same thing. That it's, you know, it's really good to have a buddy, somebody who's interested in doing the same thing, or you know, this going the same way you're going, right? Like if you have a workout buddy, you motivate yourself, right? Like some days you're calling your buddy and saying, okay, I'll meet you at the gym in an hour. Some days it's her, you know, she might phone you and you go, it's not, oh, I'm going to be there. If you're not there, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to be a bad person. So, okay, I'll go, right?
I have that. When it snowed a couple weeks ago, her boyfriend actually came and picked me up in his Jeep. She's like, no excuses. We're coming to get you. It was great.
Exactly. That's exactly what you need, right? So Schwarzenegger said he always had a buddy. When he went to the gym, he had a workout buddy. As a matter of fact, he had two. one for the morning and one for the afternoon, because most people didn't want to work out as much as he did.
Mhm.
So he had one guy that he worked he worked out in the morning 3 hours, and then in the afternoon he worked out 3 hours, right?
Another thing he talked about that I find very interesting, and I feel like it's on subject, but maybe not completely, is his issue was he felt like once he started competing, that his calves were not where they needed to be. So he went and he cut all the pants off at the knees so that he couldn't hide his calves, so that he was forced for everybody when he was at the gym could see them. He could see them. He made the area that he wanted to work on so out there and evident, because that also then helped to motivate him, right? I thought that was brilliant.
And you know, I was watching something yesterday about the Mr. Olympia contest, I think, that took place in Australia. Yeah, I mean, it could have been anywhere, but in this, and the guy that was talking over the video, doing the voiceover, he said, there were 18 people on the stage posing in the beginning. I guess they stood there, and he said, of those 18, probably 16 could win. They were good enough they could win. So how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you stand out against the other 15 people, And so he would be super super critical about every little thing, because he wouldn't want to lose because of his calves. So if if he realized, hey, my calves are not where they should be, then he would focus on his calves, right? And that was one of his techniques, cut the pants
Yeah.
off at the knee, so that every time I walk anywhere or look anywhere, all I'm thinking about is how do my calves look, right? For more information about this online community, to get your own copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, either the ebook, the paperback, or the audiobook, go to mindtimeandpower.com, where you can also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook.